Thank you very much for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers. This is Mark. This is a special presentation I'm doing, and you might see some things you've never seen before, like the title of the show. And I'm going to show this on Prezi and a number of different platforms. So thank you very much for joining me. If you have more questions about me and about the podcast, about the video channel, you can go to thevoiceofjobseekers.com. Today, I have a fellow pay scale contributor, also a career coach, has been in the business for a long time, and she's going to give us her perspective on finding remote work fairly quickly as possible. I use the words fast, but we're going to see how that goes. But welcome to the show, Octavia Gorodima. Thank you for joining us, Octavia.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
And she is talking on the audio portion of them. So thank you very much for joining us. It's going to go great with the audio and the video. It's going to be pretty interesting. Today, people are getting laid off by the droves. 3 million people have applied to unemployment in the last week or so, or was it last month, I believe. And so there's a lot of people who are out of work. There's also people who are in different stages where they're going to need to even find something else. And perhaps you might be able to give us some tips as to how to respond and how to react like that. Is there anything that people should know that may be anticipating being laid off?
Yeah, these are unprecedented times, Mark, and it's scary to witness how quickly things have changed for all of us, and we still don't know what's to come. And it's such a unique challenge to have a public health emergency of this severity, as well as the immediate economic ramifications that are touching pretty much all of us.
Right.
So I think for anyone who is listening or watching, who is trying to figure out what this means for them, I think regardless of what is going on around, and just the one thing I would encourage you and I encourage my clients to hold on to is the skill set that you have and the expertise that you have. And as long as we can maintain our health, hopefully, for all of us, the skills that we have are priceless. And so I think for anyone who might be looking at how they replace a job or supplement their income right now, the first thing to do is to get really clear on what you have to offer. And that could be your most recent role. It could even be beyond that, dependent on what your expertise is. And then I think once you're clear on what you have to offer, the same advice that I actually give to clients who have been looking for work even outside of this period. The first thing I always recommend is talk to people you know.
Yeah.
Ask your network. And while you may think, well, Octavia, everyone I know is being furloughed or laid off or is dealing with this, which is true, but you might not be asking everyone in your network for an opportunity that they would give. It might be for an idea or a recommendation, or do you know someone I could talk to, or do you know anyone who might be looking for help with this, or do you have any ideas for me, or are there any websites that you've checked out? You can really vary that ask. I'm sure like you, Mark, you're seeing a lot of conversations along those lines. I was looking in a Slack channel that I'm part of earlier this morning, and everyone is having conversations and everyone's trying to help each other too, because we all may have an ask, but we all also have a need. And so what I'm really encouraged by is seeing how people are coming together to, whether it's make a suggestion or to share a resource or to pass along a webinar or to make an introduction. And I think that is unprecedented too. So I think really don't be afraid to ask and to share. Be really clear on what you have to offer, who you are, what you do best, and what you're looking for. Because if people don't know, they wouldn't be able to suggest things for you or to pass your information along or to make a recommendation. So definitely use your voice. And then you take things a step further. What we often have been doing over the past few years is we've been looking for advertised opportunities. Well, those opportunities are fewer and further between right now. Things are changing so fast, and so many larger companies and smaller companies are not able to hire, but that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities out there. I would encourage you to think about, if you were to look for the service you have to offer, where would you look? And start by backtracking that way. Where would you look? What websites pop up when you're doing that search? Where are some of the places that people are going to for information? A lot of information is being shared by word of mouth right now, in terms of people keeping in touch with others in their networks and, you know, taking part in webinars or group chats. So that's why I think going back to sharing and talking and asking is really important. And then I'd also...
Yeah, I was going to say, Octavia, you know, for those who are watching and listening, you're in California. You've been working in California for some time. I just want to add a little context, because people are going to think, well, that's in Europe. That's in you know, you're from England, correct? You're from...
Yes, I became a US citizen last year, and I moved to Los Angeles in 2005.
Okay, I just want to be sure that I add some context so that people can, because people from all over the world listen to the show, but you know, the culture is going to be slightly different from place to place and from workplace to workplace. Of course, we speak very often to people who are, for a lack of a better term, white collar workers. There are people who are also blue collar workers. They have a different way that people find jobs. They're not normally people or blue collar workers are not finding it through LinkedIn or many of the online, you know, the online ways of finding jobs. So are you thinking and maybe speculating that maybe now this is the time that blue collar workers or people who don't or just used to being at a physical site for a job to start thinking about how they can integrate the two, online search and offline search?
Yeah, I think everything's changing daily, but the one thing that is already apparent to me is that the traditional way of looking for work is going to change for
Yeah.
everybody for the foreseeable time.
We
And
could
of
say it's
course,
already changed, but that's...
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to change. And so, dependent on what your background is, of course, the type of work that you do and how you would normally find it will differ. But I know just myself, any household that has children that is in a state where they're already at stay at home, that's immediately changed. I have two daughters, the floor below me right now, who are homeschooling, you know, as we talk. And so everyone's circumstances have changed, and how we're approaching our days and our work have changed fundamentally. And I'm hopeful. The one thing I'm hopeful for is that, as of course, gosh, what we're facing is so immense, but our adaptability is also great too. And there will be new ways of connecting that we're already forging in light of not being together physically. And I think we have to use those connections as much as we possibly can to communicate what our asks are, what we're looking for, just what, in terms of what my clients would have done before, in terms of looking on LinkedIn, like you said, or you know, looking at postings and then looking for people they know that are connected to those companies. That's just not the same anymore. It's not.
It's not. And so in essence, people are going to really have to really depend on the network and depend on ways to connect with the next opportunity really fast if you haven't already. The best case scenario is that you've already been engaged and have activated your network because you've anticipated, you know, that this job wasn't going to last long. And there are those two who are now out of work suddenly. There wasn't even a warning. And a more interesting conversation is the hotel workers that are being furloughed now, where they can get benefits and probably not all benefits, but they are not getting a weekly check. So any word of advice in your estimation for those who are in that situation?
Um, that's really hard. And I think
Yeah.
for a number of sectors that are immediately impacted, such as hospitality,
Hmm.
it's almost like a waiting game that we're all in, just
Right.
to see how long it takes for
Hmm.
us to navigate this period and then what the aftermath will be. Um, because things are changing on a daily basis, I'm hopeful that there'll be support, even more support to come from the
Hmm.
government and other institutions, but it's such early days. It's impossible to know. Just reading the headlines this morning, I was reading about a hospitality worker who was let go from a hotel in New York, and it took days and days and days just to be able to get through on the phone line to register for unemployment.
Yeah.
So everything has shifted. Everything has shifted, and I think it's having to wait and see what comes in the weeks to come. And I think talking to people following the guidance that you might have been given by your employer, having some patience as much as you possibly can, keeping yourself healthy as much as you can, and we'll have to see what comes in the coming weeks.
Yeah. I think most people are, um, and rightfully so, still in shock.
Yes.
Um, and even if it was a month ago, still it's kind of hard to absorb. Is that not only the way I used to, where we used to work, is shut down, but a lot of places that are like them are shut down too. That's how I've made my living for the past 10 years, perhaps. And it's just a little confused on where to go. So we know that your network is going to be your next step. Um, and the larger, at this time, this is where you want to have, the larger the better, because the more people you ask, the better. So how should people approach, uh, for us as an old, being online, we've been on for years, but for a lot of the people who are just joining, who's starting to put up a LinkedIn page, or put up a Facebook page, or put up a Twitter page, are starting to engage. So, of course, you don't want to, the first thing out of your mouth is, I'm looking for a job. I'll do anything would be the wrong approach.
I think if you go back to getting clear on what you have to offer, and articulating that, and also thinking about some of the things that might help you as you are navigating this next piece. And of course, finding the next role is top of that list. But
Right.
is there anything else in addition that you're looking for? Are you looking to talk to people that work in certain fields? Are
Hmm.
you looking to perhaps enhance a skill set that you have further? There's one of the benefits that I've seen that happened already is that people are sharing a lot of content and a lot of information. And so if you have access to being able to perhaps brush up on some skills that might help you as part of your job search, or refreshing your resume, or perhaps gathering some testimonials or references, now's a great time to kind of reach out to people that you maybe have worked with before and asking them to talk about work that you've done. That's not necessarily asking them for a role, but it's gathering information that might help you as you are preparing for your job search in the future.
Hmm.
Maybe dependent on and of course, it depends on the type of work that you do, because not everyone can automatically do their work remotely. But for
Yeah.
those of us that have the potential to do so, perhaps getting more familiar with tools that maybe you may not have had to use before. I know, Mark, you're very adept at a lot of the online tools that there are, but there may be people who've never had to navigate Zoom before these past 2 weeks, or aren't familiar with Microsoft Teams or Slack, or just some of the other platforms that are out there. So now might be a good time to start to familiarize yourself with some of those things if it's relevant to the work you do or the work that you want. And so those are things that I would encourage, and to perhaps look at what you've done before, look at what you might be able to do again, look at opportunities that you might see just from what people need right now. And dependent on what you do, I've seen already that people have been crowdsourcing information about companies that are still hiring at this moment. And of course, these things are going to change, on a daily and weekly basis. but just
Right.
keep looking and keep communication channels open. And I think you touched on something earlier, that it's a shock
Yeah.
and there's grief really attached to this as well, in terms of not only the fear of, in terms of the health implications or direct implications some people might already be experiencing with their loved ones or themselves, but then also just the sudden change that has happened.
Yeah.
And then also not knowing what is still to come. And those are things that take a while to work through. So I think recognize that too, that
Hmm.
it can take a while to just process and to start to work through what we're all facing in this moment in time.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And I know there's a lot of people who will again, nobody is the single source on the subject. You've got to look and see. I've written a number of articles recently about remote work, getting involved, internet security.
Yeah.
Consider those things while you're online, because you do have to protect um, the work products that your job gives you. It's your responsibility, not theirs. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who are also listening to this are unemployed, period, and they need to get a job fast. And it's always the same advice I've been getting as well. You got to go start having some really good and productive conversations. And very often those conversations return to referrals and return to a job interview where you'll have to be able to present your best. Octavia, if people want to get a hold of you and want to know more about you, how can they do so?
Oh, thank you for asking, Mark. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Octavia Gorodima, and I think you also shared the URL to my website, octaviagorodima.com, and there's a contact box on there if anyone wants to send me a message. That would probably be the fastest way.
Fantastic. And it was good to find you. I know some people will find you under your own, your old URL, which I believe is
Oh,
2010agency.com.
yeah. Yes, that's my career coaching company.
Yeah.
I'm a career coach and a writer. So I lead a small team of coaches at 2010 Agency. We do work across the United States with professionals working in a number of industries. And as of right now, in this moment of time, one of my clients has lost their job so far. So far, everyone else is just navigating the remote working piece in
Hmm.
their respective cities. Oh, with exception to one client who's in an essential business, so she's still working as she had been.
Hmm.
But yes, these are still. It's early days, Mark.
Yeah,
It's
it
early
is.
days. We don't know what's coming, and we just have to know that we will adapt, but it doesn't make it easy.
No, it doesn't. And getting is like you and I and so many are trying to get out as much information to help people to navigate and to find other opportunities as seamless as possible. I'm afraid, yeah, this is the first wave, and it will probably, I won't say it's gloom and doom, because a lot of people, most people do survive it, but we want to keep from the worst from happening, and to give as much help as people as possible. For the rest of you, thank you very much for joining Octavia and I here on the Voice of Job Seekers. Again, if you want to know about me and about what I do, you can go to voiceofjobseekers.com. Octavia is a fellow PayScale contributor. And she has also contributed to Black Enterprise and a number of media outlets as well. Thanks, Octavia, and thank the rest of you. You all have a great day.